Pink Edition.
What's up everybody, TechChucker here, and today I've got a review for you of the GameStop exclusive DC Collectibles Batman vs. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Batgirl and Donatello 2-pack. Now we've already gotten the Batman Leonardo and the Robin Raphael and the Mikey as Batman from DC Collectibles. Go check out my reviews of those. But today we are checking out the Donatello and Batgirl. We still have the Alfred, Michelangelo, and the Ra's al Ghul and Shredder 2-packs coming. I believe those are coming in December, so stay tuned for those reviews. But let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and crack this open and take a closer look. All right, so first things first, let's take a look at Donatello. And I have to say, he is looking really sharp. I love the color of the green. I think they match that very well with the movie. And I love the panel lining that they've got throughout. The paint, I will say, on this set is just a little bit more messy. There's a little bit more feathering in it, more so on Batgirl than on Donatello, but there is a little bit of paint missing on the D on the belt buckle, but that belt buckle looks really cool. I love it. The shell is painted very cleanly. You'll see that he actually has a holder for his bow staff, which is cool. The bandana, which we've seen with the others, is sculpted into one particular position, but I actually watched part of the movie last night and this is accurate to the movie, so well done. The one piece that does worry me a little bit are these elbow pads. I'm not confident that these are on there very sturdy. I feel as though they might break off easily, so be aware of that. Same with the knee pads. Those are, they're on there a little bit better than the elbow pads, but I just feel as though those might be a little bit compromised. The other piece that I'm not a huge fan of is this giant gap from the forearm wrist to the actual hand. It is a massive gap, and I don't really understand what the point of that was. It does give you better range of motion, so that's good, but I really don't know why they did that. Moving on to Batgirl, and this is where more of that feathering with the paint I noticed, especially along the ear. There's a lot of paint kind of getting on the ear, and then they've missed a little bit where the cowl should be, but it's not super noticeable, but I've noticed it myself. There is a little bit of feathering with the cowl to the face, but it's not terrible. The rest of it is very, very nicely done, very clean, so I'm really pleased with that. The cape I do wish was a little bit less rigid. I wish that was less rigid, and I do wish that the hair was less rigid. There's zero give in that hair, but it does look very nice. I like it. The lines on the legs, where it is separated, number one, it is sculpted, and that is nice, and then it is painted very, very cleanly. So I'm very pleased with it. The panel lining looks nice. The Bat logo is looking awesome. You got a couple of little rivet pieces that are painted right on the shoulder where the cape connects. Awesome. I love it. So I think they did a really nice job with this paint sculpt on this. The colors are great and vibrant, so very nicely done. All right, let's go ahead and measure these two up just to see how tall they are. And Donatello is coming in at about 5 3/4, maybe a hair more than 5 3/4. And Batgirl is to the top of the cowl, just about 6 inches tall. So that's not a bad height. Let's go ahead and throw some of the other turtles in from the set. We got Raph, and then we've got Leonardo. So they sized very differently. Obviously, Raph is considerably bulkier, but let's go ahead and throw in Batman so that you can see how he compares to Batgirl. And then let's throw in Robin as well, just to get the full perspective on what they all look like next to each other. And of course, last but not least is Mikey as Batman, right in the middle there. Again, DC Collectibles really nailed it with the sculpt paintwork is pretty decent, pretty good on these, so I am pretty darn pleased. Let's go ahead and take a look at the articulation. We'll take a look at Batgirl's first. She kind of has the most problems, in my opinion, but her head is on a ball peg. There's not a lot of range of motion, pretty much zero looking up. It's not even because of the hair necessarily. It is just the way that DC Collectibles has done the head sculpting, that there's pretty much nothing going up, down almost nothing, but that's kind of been the same for all of the other figures. Looking side to side is also really quite limited because of the hair, which is very disappointing. You can see that they tried so that it would go over the shoulder, but you know, it's not great. And then tilt wise, there's really very, very little wiggle within that head. So that is the biggest disappointment there. In the shoulder, she has a ball hinge and she's able to get her arm out over 90 degrees, just a hair over 90, I should say. She is able to swivel that arm all the way around. There is no bicep, upper bicep swivel. There is a swivel at the top, or I guess the top of the elbow. There is a single hinge in the elbow, and she's get about a little over 90 degrees, just a hair over. And then in the wrist, it's not that it's terrible, but okay, so let's start off. The wrist is on a ball hinge, and she's got pretty much, you know, the standard range of motion that you would expect. The issue I have with this is such a tiny piece. It is absolutely tiny, and I am very concerned that this is going to break. So be extraordinarily careful. I feel as though that should have just been a peg with a hinge to kind of beef it up a little bit so that it doesn't break, because I really feel that that is a problem. Down in the torso is the other problem that I have. DC Collectibles seem to have an issue with looseness, and this waist torso is quite loose. Now, luckily, mine does, for the most part, hold its position, but it is very, very loose, and there is quite a gap. It's a big gap there, and that, to me, is a bit problematic. Now, probably some of the floor shine will help, but she's able to crunch forward about that much, not a lot, and she's only able to, you know, crunch her back that, or arch her back that much, and it really is hindered because of this very, very stiff cape. But she's able to swivel. There's no issues with that. Just know that's going to be very loose. There is no other waist swivel, just the torso. Down in the hips, she's got what I believe to be T-jointed ball joints, and they are kind of ratcheted, and it's not bad. But this belt definitely gets in the way of this side. This side is much better, but that's pretty good range of motion, I'd say. Not too shabby. She's only able to kick forward about this much, which is pretty disappointing. I would have liked to have seen a little bit better range there, though the sculpt looks really nice. It looks good. So you lose the articulation, but you gain that sculpt. And then she's really not able to kick back much, if at all. Again, that's because of the sculpt. Now here they could have lost out on some of the sculpt of the butt to give us a little bit more range of motion, because the cape is covering it up. You're not going to see that, but you know, whatever. There is an upper thigh swivel right at the top of that ball, and that works decent enough. She has double jointed knees. Those work really, really good. Down in the ankle, she has that ball peg, and just be careful, because this also feels really flimsy, like it's gonna break. But she's able to get her foot back that far. She's able to get her foot forward for the most part, not much. Just be so careful with it. I'm really concerned that this is going to break. So not going forward much. There is an ankle rocker that seems to be pretty darn good. And then it does kind of swivel as well. But again, just be very careful. So overall, her articulation is probably the worst. The range of motion isn't bad. It's so loose. Next up is Donatello. And again, he's got that head articulation issue where he pretty much has nothing. He can't look up at all. He can't really look down at all, which is a big pain in the butt. Now, everybody harps on these DC Collectibles as being terrible for articulation. For Turtles, I really don't think that it is as warranted as people are saying for how bad it is. Yes, the head articulation is not great, but you know, the rest of it isn't bad. So I think people need to take a look at their old turtles again and just realize that those old turtles aren't as great as you maybe think. But he's able to look side to side. That's not too bad, but there is absolutely no tilt. He is able to get his arm out on that ball hinge just a little over 90 degrees, which is good. He's got good full rotation of that arm. There is no upper bicep swivel, but there is a swivel at the top of the elbow. He is able to swivel that. He has a single hinge. Again, the single hinges would be nice if it was a double hinge. And then down in the wrist, he's got those ball hinges. Again, that weird excessively huge forearm I don't get, but he does have a decent range of motion in that wrist, up and down. If I can get it to actually go, there we go. Not too shabby there. In the torso, this is the first one from the DC Collectibles where the torso I found actually does something. Not forward so much. It doesn't really give me forward. That's the hips that it's giving me that, but it is able to move a little bit more side to side. So there is that joint in there on all of the turtles. This one actually does a little bit more, not much, and it does swivel just a little bit. You're not getting much. So just be aware of that. Down in the hips, he's got T-jointed ball joints in the hips, and this is where the biggest problem is, and it's because they are very loose. You're gonna have to get it to be free of the upper waist portion or the hip portion to be able to get this. Once you do, you have full splits, which is pretty awesome. So just be aware, you're gonna have to be very careful about trying to get it to get past that plastic piece there, but then you can get full splits. He is able to kick forward about that far, a little bit limiting, and then kicking back. He's really only able to kick back that far, which is better than Batgirl, but still not that great. And then there is an upper thigh swivel. That's right at that waist thigh area. And then there is double jointed knees. Those work really good. Very happy with that. And then down in the ankle, he has that ball hinge, ball peg thing that we've seen before. Great range going back. Decent range going forward. I wish that they would have gotten it a little bit further. That would have been better. And then there is a great ankle rocker. So I'm really pleased for the most part with the articulation. Again, I don't understand why the head sculpt is such that he gets zero head tilt. I just don't get that. Neither figure comes with an overwhelming number of accessories, but they do come with a decent number of accessories. And we'll take a look at Batgirl's first. Her accessories, so starting off, we've seen a few of these already. So her Batarang gun we saw before with Batman and Robin. They both had this. Robin's was a little bit smaller. I feel as though this one is probably the slightly smaller one. And then she comes with two little grappling hook things. One is slightly closed, and they do fit into the barrel of this, and that looks nice enough. So we'll move those to the side. And then she also comes with a Batarang. This is the same Batarang that we saw before, painted nice enough. It does not close or anything, which that would have been cool if it did. She also comes with a slice of pepperoni pizza. That's looking very nice as well. And then she comes with 4 additional hands, so 2 additional sets. She comes with a total of 3 sets of hands. She comes with this somewhat open hand, which is for holding her communicating phone, and then she comes with this hand, which is meant to hold these little syringes, vials, and then she comes with these other 2 hands, which are essentially the exact same match for the other side. And then last but not least, she comes with these 2 little test tube vials. This one is just the actual test tube, no little plunger or anything. It's not a syringe, and it's painted okay. It's a little bit messy. There are definitely some missing paint areas and some other spots that aren't quite as nice looking. And then the actual syringe, the paint is even worse on it, but it's fun. I don't recall in the movie that it was yellow, the ooze. Now, she didn't like it being called ooze. I forgot what she wanted to call it, mutagen or something like that. I don't recall that it was yellow. I thought it was green. So that I could be wrong on. But, it's a nice enough accessory. And then she also comes with what would look like a cell phone. And this is actually very nicely done. It's a nice purple with the black screen, and then on the back, you've got the purple with the bat symbol, which that looks really, really nice. I think they did a great job with that. If this could focus, I think it's focusing on my finger. There we go. That looks pretty nice. It's not centered. If it was centered, that would be better. Now, Donatello's accessories, again, they're pretty decent. He comes with 2 additional sets of hands. He comes with these hands for holding his bow staff, and they're sculpted very nicely. I kind of like that kind of hard angles that they've got with some of the sculpting on these. These look really nice. And then he has these 2 kind of slapping karate chop hands, which also are sculpted very nicely. He comes with the obligatory pepperoni pizza slice. That looks good. Let's move these out of the way. And then he comes with the TCRI ooze canister. That is pretty cool looking. They painted it very nicely. I like the yellow and black kind of warning strips. There's a little bit of messiness in some of the paint, but you know, it still is pretty nicely done. He comes with the turtle communicator, and this is sculpted very nicely. I love it. It looks so good. It looks like a turtle shell, and it's colored differently for the 2 different pieces. So this is more of an olive green, and then this is more of a grayish, bluish green. That looks really cool. And then what's even better is it is articulated, but just know yours may come apart pretty easily. Mine comes apart very, very easily. But if you're careful, you can just kind of pop that back together. It's going to be hard for me because my camera is right in front of my face, so it's hard to see, but it does go back together. But what's even cooler is the fact that the actual keypad, those are sculpted buttons, and then they've painted them. So that is super cool. I love that. And then you've actually got in here the screen, that blue screen part, that is also sculpted in, so there's texture with that as well. Biggest issue is really the execution of the hinge, on mine at least, is not great, but I'm not going to do that on camera because I'll probably wind up breaking it. His bow staff is also very nicely sculpted. No real paint for shading and whatnot, and there is a little bit of feathering from the straps here, but otherwise it is a nicely sculpted piece. You can see the wood grain sculpted in there if my camera would stop freaking out on me. Nice little piece. And then last but not least is the alternate head, which I love this alternate head. I just think that it's a great looking piece. You've got the baseball helmet on there. It's painted very nicely. You got the little baseball and bats logo right on the front. It's not quite perfectly centered, I think, but you know, it still looks really good. And then the little navigation piece or whatever that is over his eye also looks great with the nice grimace on his face. That looks awesome. So we're going to go ahead and show you what he looks like with this alternate head on now. All right, here Donnie is with his alternate head on, and I think this is maybe my favorite look on him. I really dig it. And then the other thing that I forgot to mention is on his bow staff, he actually has it splits. And so that way then he can, it's much easier for you to insert that because it is kind of flanged at the ends. You're not going to be able to get it through if you didn't have this split. So he is able to hold that on his back, which is awesome. Always like to have weapon storage. So overall, I am very pleased with these figures. I am getting a little bit sick of the looseness with the joints. I wish that DC Collectibles would get that part fixed, but other than that, I am very pleased with this set. I think they did a great job. I think if you're a Turtles fan, especially if you like the Batman vs. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, these are kind of a must-have. So go get them if this is something that you need. They are a GameStop exclusive. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this set? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Hit that like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the bell notification so you are notified every single time I have a new video, and I will see you later.